humor, information, sincerity, shitposts. Long ago, the four pillars of the internet lived together in harmony. But then, everything changed when the shitposters attacked, pummeling all forms of unironic sincerity into a bloody pulp. Only Scorpiopede and his legendary Anomalocaris could shine a bright light upon the internet. But then, just when the world needed him most, he vanished. 11 years have passed, and while many have thought him gone forever, I, the manic pineapple, have dug him up like the prehistoric fossils he so admired, so that people could hear his story. A story of passion, struggle, heartbreak, and ultimately retribution.
Okay, enough with the Skeletor voice. This is the bizarre yet heartwarming story behind Tribute to Anomalocaris. Please enjoy. Okay, so the best place to start is at the beginning. On April 4th, 2009, a YouTuber by the name of Scorpiopede uploaded a video called Tribute to Anomalocaris. The video took images of an odd prehistoric creature and blasted Evanescence's Bring Me to Life in its entirety. And that's pretty much it. There seems to be a decent amount of skepticism as to whether or not this is a sincere tribute video or ironic shitpost, but I assure you that this video was made with dead sincerity, a claim for which evidence will be provided a little later in this video. How the video blew up is kinda complicated, but in short, the meme had two separate bursts in popularity: the Tumblr phase and the Reddit phase. What we know about the Tumblr phase is that about 2 years ago, a Tumblr user by the name of SnakeGay made the following post, with specific instructions for people to go watch Tribute to Anomalocaris, as they would, quote, need it for the coming times. While the original poster of this thread has largely scrubbed themselves from the internet, what we do know is that Tribute to Anomalocaris gained some traction in spaces that were affiliated with Sansverse, which was a shitposting community related to absurdist animal memes. The result was a video that had amassed an audience of about 73,000 viewers, so whoever made this meme had at least somewhat of a following. Now, I'm not going to say that Reddit was the principal cause of this meme making its way into the mainstream, but it sure helped. The video seemed to make its way through the r/deep into YouTube subreddit, which is a subreddit whose main focus is sharing bizarre and oddly nostalgic YouTube videos. It is here that the video found its true appeal, and with its already high view count, as well as its high reshare value, Tribute to Anomalocaris had unintentionally gamed the YouTube algorithm. YouTube eventually started recommending the video to people at random, many of whom would leave comments, either expressing confusion at their recommendations or making their own small contributions to the growing meme. Slowly but surely, the video developed a devoted fandom, who created their own tribute videos to the OP. Either way, the more people watched and commented, the more the algorithm kept assisting in its expansion, ballooning well past the original Tumblr phase. If any of you were around during the important videos playlist phase of YouTube, then you'll know that this isn't the first time that this type of anomaly has occurred on the platform. As of June 10th, 2020, Tribute to Anomalocaris sits at 530,000 views and counting. And if the snowball effect keeps up, Lord knows what the view count will be by the time you're watching this. Regardless of how people got to it, what remains consistent is that Tribute to Anomalocaris caught on for a lot of people, which leads us to our second question. Part 2, why did this of all things blow up? The comedic appeal to Tribute to Anomalocaris is tough to pin down. Perhaps it's the fact that the cuts aren't at all timed to the beat of the song. Perhaps it's the frankly killer fan art that was thrown into the video halfway through. Perhaps it's the fact that the titular goofy-eyed creature is so completely innocuous, yet was found to be deserving of the most bombastic tribute music imaginable. While the comedy of this video likely stems from a combination of all of these factors, I would like to posit that its main appeal likely stems from similar reasons as to why Shia LaBeouf's Just Do It struck a chord with so many people. LaBeouf's viral oddity has been dubbed a meta-modernist masterpiece by the likes of the Wisecrack Boys, and I'm inclined to agree with such a label. Meta-modernism is a movement that seeks to create a sense of ironic detachment in the audience. despite the actual characters on the screen emoting genuine feelings of sincerity toward whatever subjects they're engaging with. This creates a sort of half-ironic, half-sincere reaction from the audience. For example, when I first showed my mom Just Do It, she was really confused at first. Then she laughed, and then once the video was done, she expressed a strange urge to finally sign up for a gym membership. Some say she's still at that gym, Shia blaring in her headphones, telling her she needs to just do it. I just realized I should probably call my mom. Ultimately, watching a tribute to Anomalocaris similarly provides a half-ironic, half-sincere viewing experience. Paying attention to the like-to-dislike ratio, as well as the comments, the video was received with overwhelming positivity. While the comments acknowledge that there's a certain corniness to the video that makes people want to enjoy it ironically, there's also a recognition of something sweet and genuine about the creator, who seemed to sincerely love this strange creature enough to create an epic 2000s themed tribute to him. There's something charmingly nostalgic about the video too. It's a relic of its time, as these types of tribute videos were par for the course back in the early days of YouTube, but have kind of gone extinct in YouTube's new ecosystem. Pun intended. Too soon? Too soon, Anomalocaris, he's extinct. Never mind. Whoever made this video thought that it was, at the time, very, very cool. And while your first instinct is to laugh at it, most people tend to find themselves enamored at the clear passion that the OP had toward this very strange shrimp oddity. And that's where this video could have ended. But if you'll lend me your ear, good viewer, you'll find that there's a far more interesting story hidden behind the creator of this video that almost no one on the internet seems to know about. And that is the story of a kid named Borkosaurus. Robert Bork was not your average kid. While bullying is unfortunately something that many children undergo, Robert's experience in elementary school was exceptional in that it was mired with mockery, shaming, and ridicule. From a young age, Robert had a lazy eye, and his athletic aptitudes were not stellar, to say the least. His ability to participate in sports was further limited by the fact that he wasn't particularly tall, and wore large, circular glasses that gave his eyes an almost bug-like demeanor. While Robert's physical traits could potentially be enough for one to be the subject of much bullying, the one thing that caused him to be the singular target of so much harassment was his downright obsession with dinosaurs. You see, Robert loved dinosaurs like nothing else. He had models of dinos in his room, and posters of them scattered across his walls. He had seen all of the Land Before Time movies several times, and sought to someday be like Alan Grant, and study the strange and wondrous world before humans walked the earth. He made his passion for the prehistoric known to anyone he'd interact with, and for this, he was mocked mercilessly, donning the title of Borkosaurus from many a school bully. For Robert, high school wasn't much different. As a matter of fact, what was a bad situation only continued to worsen. His small friend group was ostracized as a bunch of weirdos, but again, Robert in particular seemed to always get the worst of it. People threw food at him. He was mocked for his attempts at socializing with others. In grade 7, his own friend group was split down the middle, half of whom sought to isolate themselves from him so as to not make the entirety of their high school experience a waking nightmare. Even by dork standards, Robert wasn't cool enough to hang out with. What I find to be the most interesting about Robert is the way that he chose to react to the bullying. When faced with animosity, people often retreat into themselves and marinate in their own misery, which is something that I unfortunately know from experience. Thing is, Robert was never really bitter or resentful regarding his situation. For those who knew him, Robert was a kind, compassionate individual whose curiosity for the world knew no bounds. He wasn't the smartest person in school, but he was the most passionate, and he could talk your ear off about any dinosaur with the sincerest wish to make you as passionate about his world as he was. All of this I would know best, because I was one of his friends who sat with him at lunch. I was one of those people who got laughed at and had food thrown at me for playing chaotic during lunchtime, who was mocked for sitting at the nerdy kids' table. And despite this, anytime I thought I had it bad, I would look over at Robert and be reminded just how difficult my life could really be. So whatever became of Robert? Did he eventually become a doomer, lamenting the cruel world that wouldn't let him be himself? Or would he do something a little different? Well, I decided to ask him. Greetings and salutations, everyone. This is the Manic Pineapple, and I'm here with a very, very special guest here today. The most special of guests, none other than Scorpiopede. And though you may know him as Scorpiopede, or that guy who created the world's greatest tribute video of all time, I know him better as Robert. I don't know.
That's me.
That's him. While I was in contact with you, Robert, you constantly informed me every time I would call this thing a dinosaur. You'd be like, no, it's not a dinosaur. Stop calling it that. How would you what is an Anomalocaris?
It's a really interesting animal because it doesn't have any modern relatives. It goes really far back on the family tree. Like the closest thing we can say it's in the same family as crabs, insects, spiders. So it's an arthropod. But that's about as clear as it is. Anomalocaris dates back to the Cambrian period, which is, as far as our current knowledge today says, when life was really kicking off and evolution was going to high gear, and you suddenly have this huge explosion in body types and adaptations. So like eyes, mouths, vertebrates started evolving in this time period. Like a lot of stuff that we're familiar with animals having appear in the Cambrian. So as a result, you have a lot of very, very weird stuff that has almost no modern analogs, and Anomalocaris is one of those things.
So I guess my first question for you is, what the hell was going through your mind when you decided to make this thing?
It was a lot less complicated than you may think. So at this time, a lot of people were doing these tribute type videos for various extinct organisms, probably even modern ones, but I wasn't aware of those. And I was only just starting up my quote-unquote career on YouTube. I was just a high schooler, just trying different things out, doing stuff for fun, and it was just a really easy video to make. You just take a song, take a bunch of images from Google, slap them together, and boom, you get a video. And I got some enjoyment out of some of these.
When you were young, how did sort of people react when you would bring up your passion for dinosaurs?
People never took me very seriously as a result. Like, even as far back as elementary school, from what I can remember, I was always like the outcast, and that's largely because dinosaurs was my identity, I would say. It was the thing I identified with the most, and it was the thing, being the awkward, asocial kid I was, it's the only thing I knew how to connect people with at the time. I eventually, of course, got better at it. Now I moved on to video games. That's like a slight step up from there. But yeah, no, it was very difficult for me to connect with people, and that was the first thing that came up. But for the first, I would say, 15 plus years of my life, I'd never met a single other person who was remotely interested in dinosaurs or prehistoric animals. And as a result of that, people always just looked at me as very weird and like nerdy. So
when did you figure out that your video was picking up traction? Like, what was that process like for you?
It was only several months after it started happening, and it was only because I never turned off notifications for when people leave comments or whatnot. So it's nice to always like see, oh hey, people are still looking at my stuff. And there was a period where I was getting a lot of traffic. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And just on a whim, I was actually looking at the comments, and I noticed this chain, because I only get notified of new comments, not chains. And I suddenly see this chain with like 90 responses or something. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I start reading through it, and I am utterly perplexed and confused as to what's happening.
So, Robert, in your adult life, how did you continue to pursue your passion for dinosaurs after you graduated high school?
The original plan was, when I apply for university, apply through biology, because, extinct animals, that's what was always ingrained in my head. But I realized geology is just as viable, since you have to know just as much about the rocks the fossils are in as about the animals that they came from. And from there, I graduated, and I applied to Earth Planetary Sciences at McGill University for a bachelor's. And yeah, I got in and spent the next 3 years studying geology with a minor in natural history. From there, I took courses related to paleontology. I got to know the local paleontologist from there, which is Hans Larsen. From there, I got to do field work. I got to take classes, work in a lab. And then I did a master's at the same university. I did my master's on isotopes, so it was more geology focused. But Yeah, I studied isotopes of within the sediments, looking at the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, which is about 66 million years old, and it's the period where the non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. Currently in review. Can't talk about it anymore since the paper is currently in the final processes of revision, and I don't know exactly how long it will take before being published, but should be published in half a year and a year maybe. So that's going to be my first official paper published. Currently, I'm applying for a PhD position at a university.
And to my understanding, what's the update situation on that?
Still waiting to hear back from one more, which I'm supposed to hear from tomorrow, but I did get accepted at one university, so I am going to do a PhD.
I'm just so happy for you. I'm just so freaking happy for you.
And that's what I wanted you all to know. I wanted you all to know that the kid who made that cheesy tribute video was picked on mercilessly for what he loved. But I also wanted to show you that that same kid fought past it, stayed true to who he was, and is on his way to creating a career out of his passions. Maybe there's something poetic about that, but it's at least something I thought would be worth sharing with all of you, especially considering how much positivity you've been throwing his way during these trying times. I wish you guys could have seen him react every time I'd give him an update on how the videos had been exploding. You guys have no idea how much you made this man's year. So, thank you. Sincerely, thank you for making my friend smile. And with that, I feel like it's more than suitable that I shut the hell up and let Robert have the last word in this video. Here was the last thing that he said in our interview.
So, is there anything else you want to say to your audience before I stop the recording?
Thank you for clicking on that dumb video I made back in high school, and I'm glad that it brought some sense of joy and maybe something a bit grander to you. I'm not entirely sure if it did or not. Maybe you just thought it was really stupid, but I'm glad that if you enjoyed it in any way, and that it in some way gave me this opportunity to share the story with you, and we make more out of it in the future. We'll see.
This has been the Manic Pineapple with Robert Bork, aka that guy who made the tribute to Anomalocaris, aka Scorpiopede. Thank you for watching.